Okay, we're here. Hello, it's July 25th, 2023, and we're doing government and I immediately forgot security.
We covered it 3 times.
Yeah, well, I got confused because the last story is like a hybrid.
It's Friday. We're checked out. I'm on my way to LTX.
Hey, when do you go?
Tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, it'll be in the past for you guys, but if you're at LTX, say hi to Wendell.
You get to fly through that smoke.
Yeah, gotta cut through it.
While you're up there, try to like pour out a bottle of water or something. See what you can do.
Open the door on the flight. Nothing bad can happen.
We have some rare, good government story to start with. I try to front load them because
There's not always a lot.
you don't get many of them. I don't have high hopes for this. I got to think the retaliation against this is going to be insane.
Bipartisan senators unveiling measure to ban stock ownership by lawmakers and administration officials. This is a very long article to tell you that this is just like theater.
Well,
Kabuki theater, is that what this is called?
they've been trying to get this through for a while. There's been a couple different bills. This is the latest one, I think. The bombshell in it for me was that the penalty for going against this was only $500.
Well, I
was
thought
like,
it was a
oh.
percentage.
Not what I read at the bottom. It said like $500 if you don't.
That's if they fail
Disclose.
to file.
Yeah.
But if you get caught trading, it's a percentage of your proceeds. And if we look at the Pelosi's, they would still have made so much money paying those fines.
Yeah, ultimately, yeah.
Even Pelosi bot is profitable, which just tracks Pelosi trades.
Wouldn't they kind of consider that just the cost of doing business? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
shouldn't you punish them greater than just that?
Honestly, no, they would probably be furious. But if I were in their position, that would be a trade-off I'd be willing to make.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait, I get insider
$500
information.
fine and like a percentage fee, whatever.
I can get insider information for 10%? That sounds great. I love that. But, whatever.
That's better than nothing.
It's a step in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah.
Who knows? And then let's move immediately to the direct opposite, the horror of our government.
Senate bill crafted with DEA targets end-to-end encryption and requires online companies to report drug activity. The specific language in the bill, which I think makes a better headline, is companies that willfully blind themselves to message content will be liable.
So you have to know what your users are doing. You have to monitor that for them. And again, we have the whole well, the DEA wouldn't be allowed to do that. But they can make you do it as a private company. How is that?
Yeah.
It's just an extra step.
Not to be outdone by the Snoopers Charter in the UK. The people behind this are like, but other civilized countries like the UK are doing this. We should do this too. It's like,
Yeah, let's be more like them. And, they point out that it's like, this destroys encryption. This destroys all privacy. This is horrible. And they're like, boy, you don't want to protect children? Do you hate children?
Do you like drugs? I'm putting that in your file.
And when it comes to being monitored, we are stepping ever closer to that. We've known this was coming for a while, but now it is out there and they are using it.
Fed launches long-awaited instant payment service, modernizing the system. So basically, they want you to use this instead of Venmo or PayPal to send money because, well, let's face it, Venmo and PayPal, they're kind of arbitrary and weird.
It's true that this system does just remove a step because Venmo and PayPal still have to transfer through banks, but this also gives full records of all those things to the government from you as an individual rather than from a company like Venmo or PayPal. Although Venmo and PayPal have to keep records on you by law as well.
Historically, the feds only really worried about transactions over $10,000. But as we reported several times, now it's like $600 in a year. Not just individual transactions over $600, transactions totaling $600 in a year.
Gosh, remember when they beefed up the IRS with thousands of new agents? I wonder why they did that.
Huh.
Oh, it's so they can go after you once they see everything that you transfer.
So if you transfer money from somebody to somebody else and you're supposed to pay income tax on that, and they have all these agents in this new, giant Orwellian spying apparatus to make sure that the person receiving money pays their income tax, do they also take that money off the person that paid the income tax on the income in the first place?
Sure, absolutely. And the government is trying to take care of us because we're such dupes and we can't figure things out. And we need their help. We need official language, and labels.
U.S. government launches the Cyber Trust Mark, its long-awaited IoT security labeling program. I actually tried to get some technical details on what this means, and all of the comparisons that anybody's making anywhere is that it's like the Energy Star program to say that this is an energy-efficient device.
It's literally like a sticker.
It's not like, if you want to make your own Internet of Things stuff, you need to make your own Internet of Things stuff. You don't need to be buying anything. It's all a trash fire.
Also, if it's a washer or dryer or a hot water tank or something like that, it's not going to change. But with Internet of Things, the software update could change everything. Or a change in ownership downstream could change everything. So this is actually a QR code, and the government is going to try to manage a website that keeps up with all of this. It's not going to work.
It's going to be underfunded
Yeah.
dramatically, and then it's going to
bad.
fall apart.
What a bad idea. I mean, maybe not a bad idea, but poorly implemented for
Yeah.
sure. And the IRS, as we just mentioned them, they have a shot in the arm. They got a bunch of new funding, a bunch of new people. And apparently they are going to use that to help us figure out what we need to pay them. Nah, just kidding. Still all up to you, but they're going to help maybe a little bit.
The IRS moves forward with a new free file tax return system. Supporters and critics mobilize. This is because Intuit and other companies have severely mishandled the free file and tricked people that were eligible into filing for free into not filing for free.
And so now they're lobbying against this because they want to retain their customer base.
Meanwhile, the IRS, while doing this, is also further complicating the tax code, which seems counterintuitive.
Listen, if we're going to embrace the Orwellian surveillance of money, at least make it easy to just be like, you owe this much. Okay, sounds good. Do you want to dispute that, or do you want to just pay it? It's like, no, that sounds right. Let's do that.
Certain things in this country, in this world, we're simply not allowed to observe. But you just have to sort of accept the lies that you're told, because if you were to point out the reality of it, that would be dangerous to the powers that be. Now, the problem is an AI doesn't know not to point out those realities, and that's a little scary.
The SEC is worried that chatbots could fuel a market panic.
Yeah.
Imagine if ChatGPT explained fractional reserve lending to the normies.
Well, he pointed out human-caused panics, and I was like, well, that just seems either one aren't good, but
It just seems like people are recognizing what's going on and how risky the whole thing, how the whole thing's just a house of cards. Now, we learned that the biggest lithium, was it lithium that was in the tabletop white balance thing for NASA, or was that a different metal?
Yes, no,
it was
that's
lithium.
I couldn't determine if this was the same place, but it's in the same area. But anyway, in the Southwest, there's some lithium, and we want it, but there's all sorts of roadblocks.
Tribes object, but federal ruling approves construction of the largest lithium mine on the Nevada-Oregon border.
So this was some tribal land at some point. They feel like a mine violates that.
Federal judges have really kind of been screwing over a lot of those tribes. They also recently ruled that, like, I think it was the Navajo didn't have any water rights in Arizona.
That seems
They're like,
unlikely.
yeah, we know that we gifted you this land and we said that you can sustain yourselves on it, but we didn't include water in that.
The whole idea of like land ownership without rights ownership,
Yeah.
that's so bizarre.
It's so weird.
But I think a lot of this is fueled by the fear of China controlling everything. Like,
Right.
we don't have, if it gets into a really serious situation with China, what are we going to do about all that stuff? So our little meager supplies, we got to try to capitalize on. And RFK Jr., man, what a great headline generator he is. But unlike Trump, they will not publicize anything he says. He is to be given the Ron Paul treatment because he says stuff like this, which starts to make a lot of sense, and that's not good.
The headline is RFK Jr. announces bold plan to back dollar with Bitcoin and end Bitcoin taxes. And then you read into the details of what he said, and really he just wants to divest the dollar from being fiat, and he wants other tangible things to back it. It's okay if it's composite, but he wants real tangible things to back it, including Bitcoin, but also real tangible property other than Bitcoin, which seems a little less unhinged. But then you sort of dig into it and find more stuff, and it's like,
And only 1%.
yeah.
He owns 1% of the debt starting out to be backed by actual things. And specifically, he pointed out you wouldn't be able to have never-ending wars if you had to have actual collateral against the money that you printed. Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have never-ending wars? We've never tried it, so we don't know.
I'm not sure that we know how to run any kind of economy that is deflationary.
I think it's worth trying to figure out.
We can sustain infinite growth forever. That just
No, line always go up.
And it's also hard to figure out how to fly a helicopter. And if you're going to learn to fly a helicopter, you want to probably spend some time in a helicopter, which maybe worries me about this.
The FAA is evaluating Loft Dynamics VR helicopter sims.
It's actually just a GTA helicopter flying. So it's incredibly unintuitive.
Nice.
So this thing moves around. It's very impressive, the piece of machinery. But I imagine it is prohibitively expensive to learn how to fly a helicopter because you have to have helicopter time.
Yeah.
What does that cost? I'm just the fuel alone.
I think that's true of almost any pilot license. You have to maintain a certain number of hours year to year to keep your license.
And when the United States government has a really, really bad idea, what they generally do is they just throw more money at it and double down. And that's exactly what they've done here. This was a catastrophic failure. And they said, you know what? This is a catastrophic failure. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you $40 million to go back and try again.
Microsoft will deliver improved HoloLens combat goggles to the Army testers this month. The main problem with the original batch seems to have been that they would make everybody horribly, violently motion sick.
The vomit comet.
And limited their vision incredibly.
Yeah.
And also apparently made them easier to spot on a battlefield.
The light would leak out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just the worst possible piece of combat equipment you can imagine.
So $40 million to fix those problems, and we're going to try again.
Do it again.
Although there is an out now. There's an out clause. If this still doesn't fix it, then the Army can cancel that. So that's a fairly lucrative contract for Microsoft. I expect that, I expect that their stockholders will be freaking out if they end up canceling it. Or it'll be a lot of news. So we'll cover that, I'm sure.
And drone surveillance has been a bit of a news story going back a while now. A lot of people don't like the idea of it, especially with what we're seeing coming out of the war. It's like,
Oh my gosh,
you
yeah.
can do a lot with drones. That's kind of scary. You can just identify things. So people have begun to push back. So the NYPD said, how can we drone surveil without saying that we're going to drone surveil?
NYPD to test public announcement drones during emergencies.
This is so, imagining that they are being genuine here, that is so wildly inefficient compared to just having an outdoor speaker, which we already have.
And all of our phones.
Yeah. Yeah, they point that out in the article. I was like, but what? Just outdoor speakers already do that. When you get like a severe thunderstorm alert, you hear a siren.
They said it would take, to cover the entire area they're talking about here, it would take 1,000 drones. And you have to
Imagine how
coordinate
annoying that is too. You're trying to take a walk or something and you just hear
But also,
thunderstorm warning.
imagine the control center to try to manage all that. And it has to be rapid deployment because they're talking about like,
A huge city. Yeah.
there's a flood. Deploy 1,000 drones in the next 15 minutes.
So what else would be useful to have 1,000 drones that you can't do with a speaker system?
Taking back control when the people rise up.
When I was in Taiwan and there was a tropical storm that rolled in a little unexpectedly, they used the PA system in the subways to just be like, maybe you don't want to go outside right now. It was so polite, but it was basically, it's raining sideways outside. Maybe just hang out.
I listened to a bunch of emergency sirens, and I remember Japan's was like a very polite lady. She was like, "Get to a bomb shelter now."
But see, New York doesn't have oh wait, yeah, it does. It's got a giant subway system. It covers the entire city. Well, the Canadians, they send us smoke, and they expect in return the blood of our workers.
Program to attract tech workers from U.S. hits capacity one day after opening. Yeah, we're not real smart here in America. We've lost our minds.
Well, these are all the H-1Bs that have been let go from the tech layoffs.
Or abused.
So they had 90 days to get out of the country, and Canada's
Canada's like,
I'll take those.
yeah, there's not
Don't
anybody.
mind if I do.
Like, even if there was somebody in America to look around and be like, hey, we're going through some economic upheaval right now, we should just automatically grant, an extra 90-day extension so that all these folks can find jobs. They don't need to uproot their life and move and blah, blah, blah. These are the smartest people that are
We want to
apparently,
keep these people in the country.
they're apparently in short supply, as we'll learn in the business section tomorrow. And so it's just, but no, we have to do literally the dumbest thing.
Canada capitalized on it.
We'll be fine without them.
A lot of our audience is probably H-1B as well. Hello, welcome. I see you. Good job. Sorry.
Sorry, this country is the way it is sometimes.
And over in the UK, they have their own horrific government programs, the big one being the new surveillance bill, which will break end-to-end encryption and snoop on literally everything by law. And the big tech companies, for once, are on our side because they know what that means for business.
Apple slams UK surveillance bill proposals. This is the Snoopers Charter. It keeps inching forward every week. Every week we report on it. And apparently it's inched forward enough that now Google, Apple, and Facebook are all saying, listen, we're going to nope out if this passes because it's so stupid.
I would love that. That would be so wonderful. It would probably be good for the UK people as well.
For Apple, it's specifically iMessage and FaceTime. They're like, we're just not going to offer those products in the UK if you do this.
Because it's the same as the DEA thing. It becomes Apple's problem if you do something on encryption and they find out later, which they will. And the EU has their AI bill, which is similar to the Snoopers Charter in that it basically just controls everything and limits the evolution of AI and the application of it. And because the EU is who they are, they want to control the entire world. So they've decided to go to Asia and try to bully those people as well.
EU's AI lobbying blitz gets a lukewarm response in Asia. So this is, hey, maybe we need some controls and we need to think about not rolling AI out too quickly, and it could have some economic disruption as people lose their jobs and are replaced by AI inside of British Telecom for tech support, for example. And Asia said, yeah, you do you.
Cool story, bro.
We'll do us.
Do you think that they could change that if they just released some AI images of Asian politicians? Do you think that'll happen soon? There'll be some sort of scandal?
No, I think China in particular is desperate to renew their growth. So they're probably going to let them do whatever they want. So yeah, just go crazy with it.
Even AI generated images of
Well, they'll keep
Pooh Bear?
the CCP controls for sure. That's a given.
Yeah.
And Spain is the latest country to step up and take their payment from the big tech companies.
Spain antitrust watchdog fines Amazon and Apple $218 million.
I almost feel like we should just rapid fire these because I feel like we get a big block of these every week.
Yeah, it's every week. This is about the fact that Apple and Amazon made a deal. It was like, well, maybe only Apple should be selling Apple devices on Amazon. And Amazon was like, yeah, maybe we could price fix if we did that. And they did. So they screwed all the other sellers. All the other sellers just got kicked off.
Oops.
No, it wasn't oops.
It wasn't an oops.
It was also, even with that fine, it still made them a lot of money.
The cost of doing business.
The Pelosi tax. And Norway is not in the EU. Did you know that? I wasn't aware of that.
Really?
They're not in the economic union, apparently. And, or wait, maybe they're in the economic union, but not I don't know. They're not in whatever system is fining the big tech companies on behalf of the European countries. So they themselves have their own fines.
Meta faces a $100,000 a day fine if it doesn't fix privacy issues in Norway. It's so clear this is illegal that we need to intervene now and immediately, says a spokesperson for Norway.
And we all know that Meta is absolutely doing those things. No question about it.
Like, are there more than 100,000 people in Norway on Meta services? Yes. Sounds good. We make more than $1 a day on each of them.
This one, this is the South China Morning Post. Is that what that stands for?
Yeah.
I don't feel like this was fair and balanced reporting. But this settles a IP theft case that goes back to 2013. And guess which way the Chinese government went with the decision here.
Shanghai High Court rules in favor of AMEC and its IP dispute with U.S. chip maker Lam Research, the China firm says. So apparently it was a picture and two diagrams of a machine that's 13 years old at this point.
But see, Lam Research was the one accusing AMEC of stealing.
Yeah.
And in the ruling, Lam Research has to delete stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know that was fair. Well, they had to expect that, right? I mean, do business in China, that's what you get.
When this court case was started, there was a different country in charge of this other country.
And the poor Amazon drivers, they live difficult lives, and they live under constant surveillance, not just from the property owners' camera systems, which are ubiquitous, and the Ring doorbells, but their own van.
Amazon told drivers not to worry about in-van surveillance cameras. Now footage is leaking out online.
Ugh.
Yeah.
How many people have taken a dump in their Amazon cart?
Well, we heard we know they're peeing, right?
Yeah.
They don't have a choice. So this is actually this video is from, I guess, like a command center where they were monitoring all these videos and someone was filming with their phone. But it's a dog jumping into the lap of the driver. So it's an adorable video. But that means that someone is constantly watching these and from time to time might just be sharing them with their friends.
Ugh.
Kind of like TikTok there for a while.
Fun times.
The UPS union negotiation negotiated cameras out of the trucks.
Nice.
And the military, if you are in the military, you get a .mil, M-I-L address. And it's very important that you take your time when typing that out.
U.S. military emails sent to Mali because of common typo.
This is my favorite story this week, I think.
Oh, no. They've taken steps to fix the issue. Yeah, they bought a domain.
No, they banned
Or they banned.
all .ml domains from any sort of military address.
What if they need to email someone in Mali?
You have to get a special dispensation and they have to be put it into the system as like a whitelist.
Wow.
There's some guy in Mali who is in charge of like a high level at their domain registration or whatever, and he's set up a catch-all to catch all these. And he's been complaining about this for years.
Please, I don't want this.
Please stop. It's like, no.
And it's interesting when we look at the big tech companies who believe that our life should be always online and we should be using their products in everything that we do. And that's a secure and safe way to conduct yourself. But internally, not quite the same.
Google's restricting internet access to some employees to reduce cyber attack risk. Yeah, this makes sense. It's like you don't do your email on the system that runs the private keys for all of Google's empire. I mean, that seems like common sense. You don't put the hot water heater next to the main electrical panel. That's just dumb.
So they opted in 2,500 employees. You can opt out if you explain why. You can also opt in if you're not part of the program. If you want to just nope out, not get any contact all day, not get your TikTok time in.
I feel like Google, your employees, you can have 2 or 3 Google devices and it's like, oh, this is my Google coding laptop and this is my Google email laptop. And that's how we manage the safety. That's fine.
That's wildly expensive.
Yeah, Google doesn't care.
Yeah, Google's got the money to throw some laptops around. I think they could handle that. That'd be worth one leak.
Yeah.
I would pay for it, and it's instant. And here's a pro criminal tip: if you're going to abduct people, don't let them keep any of their electronics because everything is online these days.
The FBI used Nintendo Switch to locate an abducted child. It's a little darker than that.
Ugh.
But a friend notified the authorities after seeing the missing girl sign into her console to download a game.
So this was a girl who was on some kind of social media and hooked up with a guy who was much older. He drove 2,000 miles to come and get her and took her back to wherever he lived, and then immediately started making her make certain kind of content that he could sell online. So I guess to keep her occupied, he would let her play with her Switch. One of her friends, not the police, but one of her friends was like, hey, such and such just logged on and downloaded a game I see in their activity feed, but she's missing. That's weird. And she went to the cops. They immediately got the IP address and went and got the guy.
Best friend of the year award right there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, this did not require the use of the end-to-end encryption thing. Like, this happened just fine without knowing anything from an end-to-end encryption kind
A
of a way.
concerned friend came forward.
But Nintendo immediately played ball.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, we can't be mad at them for that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, yeah. I mean, I think this is showing that things as they are now are fine. We didn't need to know the contents of the messages. Like, you would still have the IP address. If this were an iPhone instead of a Switch, even with the end-to-end encryption, this police maneuver would have worked exactly the same way.
But it wasn't a police maneuver.
Well,
the authorities they failed absolutely at this.
Yeah.
It was just the friend.
Yeah.
I mean, how hard would it be? Do they be like, well, did she take anything with her? Maybe we can use some of that.
Do we have a Steam account? Do we have just good old fashioned police work? We don't need new stuff in the laws. Just good old fashioned police work solved the problem.
No. Police work failed spectacularly. Why do you keep saying that?
Well, theoretically, good old fashioned police work could have worked.
Keep an eye on your friends list on your Nintendo Switch. That's the message here. And watch out for third-party hacks. Every week, it's a new third-party hack.
JumpCloud, an IT firm serving 200,000 orgs, says it was hacked by a nation state. Extremely targeted attack involved data ejection into JumpCloud's commands framework. Whether or not that's true, we don't know, but if you were using JumpCloud, you really should take steps to secure your stuff.
Which actually they forced you to change your keys. But what did they get? They're not telling us. Who was the nation state? They're not telling us.
Literally everything then. That's how you interpret that, is they lost literally everything. I don't know that I would trust the client software. It's like, oh, you changed your keys. No, that's an uninstall.
It's a rough day for them. And Microsoft, they pulled the old strategy where you create the problem, then you sell the solution to the problem. Some people noticed.
Microsoft to offer some free security products after criticism. This is the E5 thing we were talking about last week or the week before, where a nation state had compromised Office 365 in a very selective way. And the only way that you would even be aware of that from logs is if you had the more expensive E5 subscription. Like, you literally don't have the option to turn on the security logs unless you have the very most expensive Office 365 subscription. And Microsoft said, we should probably do something a little different there.
And in fact, Microsoft did not find the problem. Someone with that level of access who was monitoring found it for them. Seems like a lot of the investigation is just our responsibility these days, huh?
Yeah.
Always protect yourself. And Microsoft drivers, they have this wonderful system where, they're signed and they make sure that nothing suspicious gets in there. And yet,
malicious drivers could number in the thousands, according to Cisco's Talos security group. They're looking into this and they're saying, well, it's sure is easy to sign a malicious driver. What's going on, Microsoft?
So 2015 is when they implemented that. If you have one that's pre-2015, it can be utilized to get past this. Microsoft says Windows Defender will help you from this, but you have to set up certain settings.
Yeah, it's not default settings. ... angry face.
That would be inconvenient. And the war rages on in Ukraine, and it's not just on the front lines, but they are also fighting the cybersecurity, the hearts and minds war over there.
Ukraine takes down a massive botnet farm and seizes 150,000 SIM cards.
So these guys were doing in country. I guess they wanted to be from those IP addresses, so they were doing like social media stuff.
It's not a picture of.
There were a few that said like Zelensky had passed and stuff like that.
It's not a picture of the Sims cards.
Oh yeah. Some odd social media posts at the start of the war.
Signed, illegible signature.
Anyway, that's it for this section. This time next week, Wendell will be in Canada.
Fun times.
Oh.
Did you bottle up some freedom to take with you?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Go to LTX.